Okay, so basically, months and months and months ago, we made a video where two separate videos where basically we looked at all the books that I had read at that time throughout the year, and I basically had him guess what I rated them based on the cover and the summary. And so we're basically doing that again since 2024 ended 3 days ago.
Okay.
That's weird to say. So let me just look up the first book. I basically have a whole page. So I mainly have it in order, but there's 3 books where I don't remember when I read them. So I'm going to start with those 3 books, and then we'll start from the first book that I read, which I was in the middle of reading during the last video.
Okay.
So let me look that one up.
All right, we're gonna do this unedited. Right, Bo? Bo's already bored.
Okay, so the first one is Virginia the first one is Orlando by Virginia Woolf. This is basically the movie cover because it came out as a movie in the 90s. So basically it is about this young man. If I had to guess, I'd probably say 1700s is when he was born, 1700s. Because he's alive for 300 years, and in present day, it's the 1920s, because that's when the book came out. Excuse me. So basically, it's about this man. He's royalty in England in probably like 1600, 1700, something like that. In like late 1700s, he goes to, I believe it's Egypt, but he goes somewhere in the Middle East, Northern Africa type area, and randomly, he doesn't even know how, just suddenly becomes a woman. Like, basically undergoes this magical sex change, wakes up a woman one day, and then starts living his life as a woman. And most people around him are just kind of like, okay, this is something that's happened, whatever. And basically it's just Orlando living their life, switching from male to female to male to female, and it's basically just a book about like transformation and love. And the book was also written as a love letter to the author's girlfriend because she was gay, and it was the 1920s. So but yeah, so it's basically just about an Englishman who's immortal, undergoes this random magical sex change, and it's just them discovering this new life and living their life and having a child and all that.
Well, I think that sounds pretty interesting, so I'm gonna say you gave it a 3.5. There's a movie?
Yeah, I've seen the movie. I saw it like 2 years ago. I thought it was pretty interesting. I've heard many people say, though, that it doesn't capture... that it's a good movie, but it doesn't quite capture the beauty of the book.
Yeah, most movies don't. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
I do think it was pretty good. It's a little slow-paced and fast-paced at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. But, yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars.
There you go. How many books did you say we had?
I'd say a little over 30.
Okay.
32. So, yeah, that was the first one. It was a little difficult to understand just because it's the 1920s writing and all that. The next one is Time is a Mother by Ocean Vuong. And basically this is just a collection of poems of him grieving his mother's death and what it's like having lost a mother, but it also kind of talks about his life growing up and being a child immigrant, and then what his mother endured. And it was just a whole bunch of stuff because I think it was Vietnam. I could be wrong, but basically he was born in Vietnam to a Vietnamese mom and an American dad, and his dad was in the army, so his dad was but wasn't around, kind of.
Yeah.
And then his mom basically, I guess she was kind of considered less than in Vietnam, just because something with her status, being born to, I guess, a specific parents. I don't know the whole thing all about that, but the book's just basically him grieving his mom and talking about his childhood, and then what it was like to be born to, like, mixed race to a teen mom and in another country, and then immigrating here when he was a child, and his name was changed to Ocean. To his last name is his first name, I believe, or something, and then his parents changed his name to Ocean to make it sound more American, but they also like that name. And anyways, it was just really yeah. So
I'm gonna say 2.5 on that one.
2.5.
Yeah.
I gave it 3.
3. I almost said 3.
Good.
I'm not big into the halves, but.
You good? He's breathing loud.
You okay, Bo?
Okay. The next one, we've seen this movie. I really like the movie. But this is The Cabin at the End of the World.
The Cabin?
The Cabin.
At the End of the World.
It goes by a different name for the movie. So this is the cover.
Okay.
And then once I show you this, you might know. This is the...
Cabin, that's the movie?
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Well, the name is different.
I was thinking Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, so the name on this is the same as the book.
Okay.
But the name of the movie is different. So let me
What's the name of the movie?
Let me look it up.
Cabin in the Woods. M. Night Shyamalan. Knock. That's what I meant. Not Cabin in the Woods. Knock at the Cabin.
Mm-hmm.
By M. Night Shyamalan. Mm-hmm. Cabin in the Woods is a scary one. So, yeah. That was based on that book?
Uh-huh. And when I tell you...
Do you have that book?
No. But I listened to it through audiobook. This book is almost scene for scene. Oh my god, the movie did such a good job. Like, I listened to it through audiobook.
Uh-huh.
But when I tell you, I felt like I was rewatching that movie. There were a few things changed. Like, Leonard in the movie looks like he's in his 40s. Leonard in the book is 24.
Leonard is the guy from Harry Potter?
No, Leonard's the big buff guy.
Oh, the wrestler, Batista.
Yeah. So in the book, he's 24 years old. But in the movies, he looks like he's in his 40s.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, characters' names, it's 2 dads who adopted a daughter from China. Like, literally everything in this book is almost exactly the same. So pretty much, you already know the plot because you've seen the movie.
It's pretty good.
So
I'm gonna say you gave it a 4.
3.5. So close. Okay, so now here's where we get to the actual order. Because those 3 books, I did not remember when I read them, but I knew that I had read them because I had it in my log on Libby, because that's where I listen to all my audiobooks. For those who don't know. Oh my god. Okay. The next one, I've shown this cover multiple times. So I'm just gonna kinda show it. But it's Tampa by Alyssa Nutting. So
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting cover.
Here's another cover, which is just plain black. But basically, this book is very, very taboo on the subject it talks about. So it talks about pedophilia, being a child predator, all that. But not from the victim's perspective. We read the book from the perpetrator's perspective, and what makes it quote unquote interesting is that it is a female middle school teacher who is the perpetrator. This is actually based off true event, partially.
Yeah, I was gonna say female middle school teacher. That sounds about right nowadays.
So it's partially based off true events because in 2006 there was a woman named Deborah, and the author went to high school with her. And so once she found out what Deborah had done, she was like, oh, I'm gonna write a book partially based off this. And kind of, it's a really interesting book. So basically, we follow this woman. I don't even remember her name, but basically she's a middle school teacher. She's married. Her husband's a cop. And
I think I know what teacher, what storyline.
It's
not storyline, but I heard it.
Mm-hmm. And so it's called Tampa because it takes place in Tampa, Florida. Both the case and the book.
Yeah.
Basically, the book follows this young middle school teacher. She didn't become a teacher because she liked it. She became a teacher purely to abuse young boys, basically. And so
she admitted to it?
In the book, yeah. So I'm not sure about the actual case. But basically, in the book we follow her, and she's married to a cop, which makes it even more interesting because she has to be even more careful. And she basically starts relationships with some students, and there's some death and all that. And then in order to keep seeing one of her students, she starts seeing the student's dad. And then spoiler alert, basically the court, and this is actually true from both the case and the book, the court basically says she's too pretty to go to jail, so she gets sentenced to like 6 months or something, and then she's let out. And in the book, she's living in another town, preying on more boys, and that's how it ends.
How about in real life?
I'm not sure, actually.
Okay, you gave that a 3.
3? I gave it 5.
Oh.
See, that's kind of where it's a bit taboo for some people, because a lot of people all over TikTok, people are like giving it like 2 stars, 0 stars, all this stuff.
So
I'm over here like, I really, really enjoyed it.
So what's the point of the cover?
I'm not sure, actually. I mean,
is it just meant to be graphic?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so there was no meaning behind it, or what?
Most likely, yeah. Okay, the character's name is Celeste Price, and then the real woman, where is it? Because I know it is based off. Yeah. So technically, she's not a pedophile; she's a hebephile.
Hebephile?
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
So pedophile is prepubescent.
Mm-hmm.
Hebephile is teenagers.
Did not know that.
And then there's a phoebophile, which is preteens.
A phoebophile?
Because you don't like, so basically, pedophile is where you like prepubescent. A phoebophile is where you like them as teenagers. And then, hebephile is where you like them as teenagers. Or maybe it's a fever file. I don't know. I'm switching them. And then one of them is where you like them where they've started puberty, but they're not too far into it, where they're more adult. So there's all this random stuff. I started looking into it partially because of this book, partially because I like that whole psychological, like, why are people this way? And that's part of the reason I really like the book, just to kind of see what's going on in this woman's mind. Trying to find the actual woman, because I know it's on. Here it is. Deborah LaFave. Deborah. That's the real woman.
2006?
Is she out?
18 years ago. 19 years ago.
In 2005, she pled guilty.
2005, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I thought you said 2006.
I thought it was 2006. She might have gotten out in 2006.
She only served a year?
No prison time, 3 years house arrest, 7 years probation, and lifetime registration as a sex offender. So, no more teaching.
So did her husband divorce her?
Probably.
Because some of them don't. It's weird.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, the next one is...
That was 4 or 5?
That was 4. The next one is Here Lies a Vengeful Bitch by Cody Crowley, I believe is how you say it.
Crowley?
Crowley.
Mr. Crowley.
Anyways.
It's a song by Ozzy Osbourne. Crowley.
I don't know what that is.
Anyway.
So basically this book is about, there's this girl, she's kind of like the bad girl basically. She gets murdered. Yeah. And then my phone's at 18. Anyways, so she gets murdered. And she basically comes back to life for revenge.
Okay.
But first, she has to figure out who murdered her. And there was a lot of people who could murder her. Where is the...
Recharging?
There we go. So, what do you think I rated that?
A 4.
4? I gave that 2. Which I'm actually disappointed in. So, honestly, it might just be a case of me not liking the narrator, which I think it might be, but I could not get into it that much. Like, it was good, but I just didn't like a lot of the main characters. I low-key found the main character annoying. Like, Annie was...
That's no, we're recording.
Okay. We're recording.
Is he done recording?
No.
When's he gonna be done?
40 minutes.
Not for a while.
Oh my god.
You can come into the kitchen.
Okay.
I don't know what you guys... I don't know what they're doing. Okay. Anyways, so a lot of the characters were just low-key kind of annoying. I really could not get into Annie, who's the main character.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of annoying. And then there's just the whole... So, like, I tend to read a lot of queer books just because I didn't really grow up with stuff like that, so I tend to consume a lot of queer media. But, and, like, I like representation and stuff, but I felt like there were some points in the book where it was just kind of unnecessary, and I hate to say that.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm just like, oh, why does this need to be here? or
I know what you mean.
and I hate to say that because it's like that's my own community, but I'm sorry. I just felt like it wasn't really that needed in the book. Like I felt like it could have done without, and it was weird because like it wasn't like a huge plot point, but it wasn't like so much of a side plot that it was just like, oh yeah, this is here. It was just like, this isn't a big plot, but have all of it at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. It was just kind of, it just felt like it wasn't really needed, but it would have been cool if it was like a side plot. Like,
I know what you mean.
that wasn't super, I don't know. Typically I'm into that stuff, but in this book I just felt like it didn't really work. So the next one, I'm so mad I did not get this at Barnes & Noble, because basically I read the audiobook and I found out at Barnes & Noble last month and I was gonna get it, but I never did, because the book is actually really good, which should tell you my rating. But it is Horror Store by Grady Hendrix, and this is what got me into Grady Hendrix. Now, I have not read any of his other books, but I want to read a lot more, because that book has a high rating. So
I'm gonna take a walk and say it's a 5.
no. So this is the cover, and it's shaped like that on purpose.
Okay.
Horror
Store. Without an E. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, the book is like really cool, and I wanted to get it because it's basically like an IKEA pamphlet brochure type thing, like catalog. Is that the word I think that I'm looking for? I don't know English. I do. It's one of my first language. Anyways, basically, throughout the book, there'll be like random little things about a specific item, because it's this giant store that's basically like IKEA. But basically we follow this girl. She works at this giant IKEA like company, and basically her and some other staff members are told that they need to stay way past their shift, and they kind of volunteer to anyways, but basically there had been some weird things going on at night, and they wanted to catch this like thief and whatever was going on, because like stuff was being moved and stuff would go missing, and like there would be a bed that's in the kitchen section, or the sheets will be completely ruined in a bed, or so like there would be stuff that's completely gone. So basically it's just these employees staying after, and then a whole bunch of creepy stuff starts to happen. They kind of gets revealed that it's haunted, and then not to really spoil anything, but it kind of gets a little bit confusing with the whole backstory of how it came to be, because that's a big part of why it's haunted.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed it. So, and listening to it on audio was really good because it actually felt like watching a movie. So
All right, since you're letting me rank again, I'm gonna say 4.
4.
Even though I had already said 5.
4.5.
Jesus.
Okay. The next one is Martita Te Recuerdo.
Oh, Martita Te Recuerdo?
Anyway, by Sandra Cisneros.
Not Sandra Cisneros.
Yes, honey.
She's so good.
Martita Te Recuerdo. Bruh. So, there's the cover.
Have you thought about writing a book?
Yeah. But everything I think of, I'm like, oh, that's literally the plot of this show. Anyways.
A lot of books are similar.
So, basically, we follow multiple different characters. We follow a character named Corina, who basically lives in Chicago.
Are you still recording?
Yes.
It's not aimed towards you.
Anyway, basically, we follow a character named Corina. She's a mom living in Chicago, and
Bro, I need to go
she
there.
finds a whole bunch of letters, and from when she was living in Paris with some friends of hers.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, it's just kind of basically the letters and her roommates writing back and forth while living in Paris. And so it kind of talks about being Latina in Paris and just a whole bunch of other stuff in general. 2 out of 3 roommates are Latina. I believe she's like Cuban or something. I could be completely wrong. And then another one of the roommates is Italian, and the other one is from Argentina. So basically, it just follows these 3 women writing letters back and forth, while also living together in Paris, and then what their lives were in Paris, and relationships, and heartbreak, and losing people, and all that. So, hi. So, yeah.
3.
3.
I almost said 3.5.
Comfortable?
Just kick back, Bo. Just kick back.
Okay. So the next one is Paula by Isabel Allende.
Okay.
So basically, this came out in the 90s. It is a memoir to her daughter, basically. So her daughter gets sick and falls into a coma. And so it's basically just her talking about... It's basically it's one giant love letter to her daughter, who's in a coma. And it talks about family, and then, like, growing up in, like, during, what is it, like, the regime in Chile,
Mm-hmm.
in the 60s and 70s and all that. And it talks about just, like, the author's parents and grandparents. Why are you licking my paper? Anyways, it talks about the author's parents and grandparents, and then raising Paula, and I don't know, it's just, yeah, that's the best way I can really explain it.
3.
3. 4. Okay, now this is where we get into when we started doing the book thing.
Okay.
So the first book is The Girl Who Wrote Loneliness. I'm gonna look that up. The Girl Who Wrote Loneliness by Kyung Suk Shin. So basically, oh my god. Basically, this book is about this young girl who goes to she basically leaves her family to go work and go to school to help provide for her family, basically.
Okay.
So.
3.
3. Okay, next is Mr. Magic. Basically,
Cover.
yeah, Mr. Magic by Kirsten White.
Okay.
I've heard that, mister. If you're hungry, go get food. I heard his belly rumble. So basically it's about this girl. She's been living on a horse ranch since she was 8. And her dad dies. So just like of old age and stuff, he didn't get murdered or anything. He just dies of old age. And basically she's having a like funeral memoriam thing for him and with like the woman who owns the ranch, because she basically let them stay there. And she kind of starts wondering like, what was my life off the ranch and all this stuff. And so she starts asking the woman, and the woman's like, honestly, I don't know, you just came here one day, your dad said you guys were in danger, and I've let you guys stay here ever since, and the children love you and all that. So, but if you want to leave, you can. Because she helps train kids on horses and stuff like that. That's what she does. Then all of a sudden these 3 random guys show up to the horse ranch and are like, oh my god, hey, and she's like, who are you? And they're like, you don't remember us? Basically it turns out they were all on this children's show that nobody remembers but the people who were on the show and people who watched it as kids. But the thing is, when those kids went to go ask their parents about it, they would just be like, you would stare static for hours and hours and hours, laughing and smiling. So something's clearly going on. So basically, they decide to go to the set of when it was last, like the last episode that was ever filmed, and they made up with more people who are adults who used to be kids on the show, and a whole bunch of drama starts to unfold within the group, and then creepy stuff starts happening. She finds out her mom's not actually dead, but then a whole bunch of creepy stuff starts happening, not only at the set but in the town. And then like this town's really religious, and so they just kind of chose not to pay attention to what was happening and all that. From looking into it, it's basically just one giant metaphor for religion and religious drama, because basically the author left the Mormon church, and a lot of her characters kind of have stuff to do with stuff that's looked down upon in the Mormon church. Like one of the characters is a black gay man, another one is a closeted gay man, another one is a woman who's in a toxic relationship, but she doesn't want to really do anything about it because she kind of believes that she has to stay in this marriage and all this stuff. And then there's other people who are other things, and like some are addicts, and just basically they all kind of represent all these negative things viewed negatively by the Mormon church and the town. And this is supposed to represent the Mormon church, and Mr. Magic is supposed to represent the Mormon God or something. I don't know. I started looking into it. It was really interesting. But what do you think? I just started
3.5.
I just started ranting there.
That's fine. 3.5.
3.5. Okay. Ooh, this next one. Let's just say this one has to do with my trauma. Okay, this one is Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents by Lindsay C. Gibson. The
This
title-
one wasn't in our list.
Yes, it was.
It was the book.
Uh-huh.
Really, I don't remember one that with that title.
So basically, it's a nonfiction book. It's this doctor, like psychologist or whatever, who's the author. Basically, she just talks about it's a lot of interviews with her patients who've given her consent to be in their book, but basically, it's just a whole bunch of interviews with her clients, talking about different situations with their parents and who are emotionally immature and might have neglected them or abused them or stuff like that. So, yeah.
3.
3. 4.5.
That one got a really high rating.
Some tears. Anyways. The next one is, I gotta look this up because I love we don't even. Oh my god. I just realized I completely typed that wrong. Hold on. Okay. Oh yeah, okay. I remember now. So, basically, this next one is Wild Seed by Octavia Butler. I used to confuse her and Octavia Spencer a lot. So, basically, this is about 2 African gods. One of them is good, one of them is bad, and basically just their battle with each other. So.
That's it?
Yeah, pretty much.
2.5.
What did you say?
2.5.
Yeah. Here, let me read the synopsis. Wild Seed is the story of two immortal Africans named Doro and Anyan Wu. Doro is a spirit who can inhabit others' bodies, killing anyone and anything in his path, while Anyan Wu is a woman who has healing powers who can transform herself into any human or animal, healing them.
Okay.
So, basically just because one kills and one heals, they have this giant battle and clash and all that. I wanted to be into it because I've heard good things about her as an author, but I just wasn't that into it. The next one here we go. Okay. The next one is Violeta by Isabel Allende. So basically we follow the main character Violeta. Basically she's born in the early 1900s and we just follow her growing up 100 years old. So basically she's born during the Spanish flu in Chile, and then Chile also goes under this regime. She is a part of a wealthy family, but due to this regime, she has to move, and she's no longer as wealthy as she was. And then, like growing up, she had this nanny who was from England, where she learned English, and then the nanny also learned Spanish through the family. And it also talks about like colorism and protest, and then the ongoing genocides that happen towards indigenous people of Latin America, and just like politics and racism and just all this stuff that happened from the 10s, 1920s to even present day in Chile. And so we basically follow her like growing up in all this, getting married, having kids, having grandkids, and then dying. So yeah, there's just a lot in this book. Like, it's a lot.
3.
30, 4.5.
Okay.
Okay. The next book is Less by Andrew Sean Greer. Sean Greer. Okay. So there's the cover.
Okay.
Oh, my ankles are killing me. So basically, this book is just about this young, like, not young, he's like 49. But basically we follow this 49-year-old man.
Hey, 49 is young.
It's almost half a century.
That's it.
Anyway, but basically, he's like a journalist or author or something, I can't really remember. Basically, he starts having a midlife crisis because he's like, I'm gonna turn 50 soon. So basically, he kind of decides to travel the world, and he runs into people from his past, people who just kind of help him, like.
What the heck is going on over there?
Kind of come to terms with being 50 and stuff like that. But it also talks about like the AIDS epidemic and what it was like being a gay man in the 70s and 80s. And then just like having a midlife crisis, basically. It's kind of funny. It's supposed to be a comedy type book.
Mm-hmm.
Like a comedy drama. So, yeah, like I don't really know how to explain it. It's just a 50-year-old, an almost 50-year-old man who's having a midlife crisis who decides to travel the world, and we learn about his past and all that.
3.5.
I gave it 3 stars.
3?
Okay.
Only because I'm the midlife crisis guy.
You about to be. Okay, next one. If I can stop coughing, is not surfer. No. Oh my god. I cannot speak. I do not need the actual chemical. I need the damn book. Okay. This next book is Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno Garcia. So, this needs to be turned into a movie. That's all I gotta say. Basically, it's mid-90s Mexico City. And we follow these 2 best friends What is her name? I do not remember her name. Let me look up her name real quick, because I am blanking on her name. What is her name? Montserrat, that's her name. We follow these two best friends, Montserrat and Tristan. Basically, Montserrat, she's tired of being, like, not necessarily looked at as less, but not having as much of a say in her job due to being a woman. And her best friend Tristan, he basically is like, hey, I also work, they both work in the film industry. He's like, hey, I just found this guy who's a director and a horror film legend who just moved in next to me. Let's go talk to him. So basically they go talk to him, and the guy's name is Abed. He basically is like, oh, I'm gonna use you two. And because basically, I think it was like the 50s or something, he was like filming a movie for this guy, and a whole bunch of stuff ended up happening. It kind of goes into that, a whole bunch of like creepy stuff, and it turns out to be this whole, like deal with the devil type thing. And basically he needs two people to finish this ritual. And so they basically agree to it without knowing it's really a ritual. They're just like, kind of like, okay, you want to film a movie? Whatever, let's do it. And then a whole bunch of stuff starts happening. It turns out it has to do with this whole cult. And there's a lot of like movie lingo, and it talks about a whole bunch of like, it basically talks about horror in Hollywood and horror in Mexico, and it talks about the filming of Dracula starring Bela Lugosi, and then it mainly talks about the Spanish version, because they filmed the English version in the morning, and then they filmed the Spanish version at night.
Mm-hmm.
And so it talks about that kind of plays a big role into it. Yeah. What do you think I rated it?
4.5.
4.5. 4.5.
Only because you said they need to make a movie out of it.
Yeah. So I really like it because it has a lot of movie references. Obviously, it's like mid 90s movie references, but it talks about a lot of like old Hollywood horror movies, and then just old Hollywood in general, which I'm a huge fan of. I love old Hollywood. And then it talks about like, it actually goes into like the detail of the camera work and all that stuff, which I found really interesting because I don't even know anything about that. So next book is Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. Why do I have blue on me? Let me look it up. Okay, there we go. Oh, my leg's starting to hurt.
Okay.
So basically this book is about this young woman, basically finds out that her mom, who she has an estranged relationship with, is dying. So she decided to go back home. The thing is that her dad was a famous serial killer. So it's kind of hard for her to go back home because, one, her childhood home is now famous for these murders. And then there's also like this, once she's there, there's kind of like this weird haunting
Mm-hmm.
kind of happening, and she's like, is this my serial killer father? Is this his victims? What is going on? But it just talks a lot about like being the child of a serial killer and having parental issues and trauma and bullying and all that sort of stuff. So
3.5.
3.5. You got it right. Okay, the next one is Cowboy Graves by Roberto Bolaño.
What number is this?
17.
Okay.
So we're halfway there. What was it? Cowboy Graves. Cowboy Graves by Roberto Bolaño.
Okay.
First of all, I would just like to point out that the audiobook narrator really annoyed me because he would say Bolano when his last name is Bolaño. So that annoyed me. I couldn't let it go. I'm sorry. So basically, it's 3 short stories. I'm not really going to go into the summary of each story, but basically it's just 3 short stories that take place in Latin America, mainly South America, because I believe the author is from Chile. But it talks about racism, immigration, war, politics, protesting. I feel like it's very similar to Violeta, minus 1, it's 3 short stories, and then 2, we mainly follow adult men rather than watching this young girl grow up into all this. And so I'd say the books are very similar. They both start off in Chile. In one story, I know they immigrate to Mexico. In another story, the guy goes to, I believe, like Bolivia or Brazil.
Yeah.
And then he comes back to basically help protest the regime. Yeah. So that's the books. What do you think I rated it?
2.5.
What do you think?
2.5.
3. Okay, the next one is Dear America by Jose Antonio Vargas. Dear America, America. By Jose Antonio Vargas. So basically, this is a memoir about an undocumented citizen. Excuse me. So basically, it's this young boy from the Philippines. He immigrated without his parents, all alone, to the United States when he was 12 years old. And he lived with his aunt, uncle, and a whole bunch of other family members. And it talks about a lot. It talks about, so he didn't know he was undocumented until he was, I believe, 18. And then he didn't get his citizenship until he was like 30, 35, something like that. So it took him a while to get his citizenship. But it talks about being undocumented, racism. It talks about Spanish colonization a lot. It talks about not being American enough, but then once he starts integrating into American culture, he feels like he's not Filipino enough. It talks about confusing Latinos with Filipinos and And then he kind of talks about how growing up he always got confused because he was like, how come I'm not Latino when I have a Spanish name and parts of the Philippines speak Spanish, and the part where he's from, I believe they spoke Spanish. And so it talks about a lot. It was a really interesting book, yeah. So
3.
3. The next one is The Rachel Incident by Caroline O'Donoghue. And if you don't guess this rating because of what I just showed you earlier, I'm gonna be disappointed.
Uh-oh.
The Rachel Incident. Here's the cover. Do you remember that cover?
Vaguely.
Vaguely?
Yes.
Okay. So, basically, first of all, if you've seen the show Dairy Girls, to anybody who's watching Dairy Girls, this book is a lot like that, except instead of the early 90s, it's 2009. Basically, it takes place in Ireland. We follow a young girl named Rachel. She's a senior in college. She's working at a bookstore, and she befriends this guy named James. I believe his name is James. So basically they decide to become roommates. She's kind of got this thing for her professor, but he's a married man, and so she doesn't go for it. She doesn't even try. She's studying literature, even though she's kind of like not really that into it. She just kind of chose something. She came from a wealthy family. It talks a lot about social class. She comes from a wealthy family while James comes from a low middle class family.
Okay.
Like a working family. She finds out that she's pregnant. She has to go to England to get an abortion because Ireland, it's illegal. And then it also talks about just a lot of stuff because, like I said, she's got a thing for her professor. That soon goes out the window when she finds out that her roommate and her professor start sleeping together. And the reason it's called the Rachel Incident is because his wife basically assumes it's her, because she starts an internship for the wife, and the wife is basically like, oh, you got really close to my husband, because she basically saw this address, and he was going to this address a lot, and she knew it was Rachel's address, but obviously this professor is with James, who lives with Rachel, so it's gonna be the same address. And so
they're
basically,
having a gay relationship.
yes, and so he's a married man. It's, I guess, not really spoken about. It's like 2009 Ireland, so I guess it's not really spoken about that much, like being gay and all that. But James is more open about it. Basically, James freaks out, the professor freaks out, and Rachel takes the fall. So that's why it's called the Rachel Incident.
4.5 stars.
4.5. I give that 5 stars.
I almost said 5 because it sounds.
And so here's why I said I was gonna be disappointed in him.
There goes Bo. Everywhere Max goes, there goes Bo.
How about? Fuck. I can remember pups. You're not even a puppy. You're 7 years old. It's number 1.
Oh.
It's my favorite book of the year.
Okay.
So, seen some of the other books on there.
There's a movie about it?
No.
You know what that reminded me of?
What?
Happy Death Day. Where she's having an affair, but the
Yeah.
roommate's jealous.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Okay, there's only one other book on here that I read. The other ones are all prior. No, if you're thinking about jumping on here, I love you, but you gotta sit down or lay down somewhere else.
You heard that, Bo?
There we go. Okay. Oh my god, my leg is killing me. Jesus. Oh my god, that charged my phone fast.
Where are you at?
80.
Okay, we're at an hour already, so we might have to do a part 1 and 2 again.
Okay.
What time is it?
Almost 11.
Okay.
Ugh.
What book are we on? What number? Last time we had to do 2 parts.
19.
And there's 32 books?
Yeah. What, do you want to do one more book?
Yeah, let's do a couple more.
Okay. So the next one is another memoir. It is In the Dark Room by Susan Faludi. In the Dark Room.
Okay.
So, like I said, this is a memoir. It's an autobiography, kind of. Well, it's mainly about her parent. I was gonna say parent because I don't really want to give it away right away. So basically, we follow Susan, who gets an email from her father. So she was born to Hungarian parents who immigrated right after World War II. So she grew up in Oregon. To Hungarian parents, they're Catholic, like really religious. Her dad was that like brute, kind of abusive, very macho, manly man.
Yeah.
Like head of the house, you know what I'm talking about. Like he was that type of guy. And when she gets this email, so he's living back in Hungary. He moved back to Hungary. And he basically is like, hey, I want you to come to Hungary. And I want you to write a book. And she's like, okay. So she gets to Hungary. And her dad is now a woman.
Okay, I remember you telling me about this.
So he had, since he was already living in Hungary, but he had gone to Thailand to undergo sex reassignment surgery. And this is, if I remember correctly, 2003.
This is a true story?
Yes.
What's it called again?
In the Dark Room.
Okay.
So I believe this is 2003 because I believe he passed away in 2010. And the book came out 2016, I believe. Maybe a little earlier. But, so, basically, when she goes to Hungary for a few weeks, and this, like I said, this is 2003, 2004, something like that. And it talks a lot about just her dad's life and like growing up in Hungary in the 30s and 40s, and then being an immigrant in the 50s. And it talks about the trans and the queer community, both in general and in Hungary, which is a very, very typically religious Catholic country. It talks about World War II. It talks about death and like internalized transphobia and a whole. It's just a like. It's a book. Yeah. So what do you think I rated it?
4. Because it sounds like a very interesting story.
Yeah, I rated it 3.5, which I'm actually gonna raise to 4. Yeah, like that book was low-key kind of life-changing in a way. Just like it's this 70-year-old trans person, like, who transitioned very, very late in life, and just hearing what her it was kind of confusing, I'm not gonna lie, because she would say her father but use she her pronouns, because to her it is her father. Like, I get it, but it was confusing associating the word she her with father. But just hearing about what this older trans woman who transitioned late in life, and then hearing what she went through as a kid, but then obviously that doesn't excuse being the abusive man she was with her kids, but it was just a really good book, and honestly I would definitely recommend it for, I mean, not just trans or queer people, but just people in general, but especially if you're a part of that community.
Was she an only child?
The author had siblings. And I believe her father did too, but like I said, like, her father grew up 1930s-ish, very religious in Hungary. So that wasn't really a thing that the father could be, and later in life the father kind of realized, this is who I am. And the next book is You Exist Too Much by Zaina Arafat. So, okay. So basically, we follow this young woman. So she grew up in Palestine, and a lot of it talks about the childhood. It's a fiction book, but I guess it's partially inspired by the author's real life. But we follow a young woman. She grew up in Palestine, and it talks about just like, she was told she had to wear specific clothing and all this stuff to not get men's attention and all that. She moves to the United States when she's a kid. I believe like 12 years old, something like that. We follow her into adult life, and a lot of the books, she's an adult, she's in college, and she's bisexual, but she's not out to her very religiously Muslim parents, especially her mom. So one night she basically invites her roommate, who's her girlfriend, and her mom to dinner with each other, because her girlfriend is like, well, when are you gonna come out? Like, I wanna be out and proud and all this stuff and with you and stuff like that, understandably. But at the same time, I also understand the main character's point of view. With, like, I feel like the main character could be openly in this relationship while also not being out to her parents. But basically, she comes out to her mom. Her mom does not take it well at all, and they kind of get into an argument. And she the main character's like, why are you like this? Blah blah blah. Da da da. All this stuff. Her mom tells her, you exist too much. Like, you're too much. You're too out there. You're too open. Just all this stuff. She breaks up with her girlfriend, she's low-key kind of a sex addict. It was weird reading the book. That's all I'm gonna say. What do you think I rated it?
3.
3. Yeah, I rated it 3 stars, and it was a good book. But the reason I would have rated it like 3.5, 4 stars. But the reason I rated it 3 is because, and I'm pretty sure this was done on purpose, but the main character has got to be the most insufferable, unreliable son of a... Like, I cannot stand this main character. She, like, self-sabotages every single thing she does. She'll fall in love with somebody, even though that person isn't in love with her. And she will literally do anything, and I mean anything, to try to end up with this person. But then once she's in love with that person, she's like, ew, this is too much. And like once that person starts showing feelings for her, she's like, this is too much. Sabotages the relationship. Like ends things with her girlfriend. It was constantly on and off. I cannot stand this main character. She sabotages everything on purpose. She's constantly telling the readers stuff, and then it's revealed that that's a lie, or that the truth was bended a little bit, or it's like this is just a very unreliable, annoying, sex addict, love addict, self-sabotaging main character. That's the best way I can describe the main character. She was just insufferable. I could not stand her. Oh my god. I'm just getting pissed off talking about this main character, so I'm gonna stop. So, the next one is a trilogy. So I think we should end it after the trilogy.
Okay.
So the first one, the trilogy is The Dreamland Billionaires by Lauren Asher. The first book is The Fine Print. Here's the cover.
Okay.
So basically the whole series, we follow these 3 brothers. Their grandpa dies. Their grandpa is the founder and owner of this big, basically Disneyland amusement park called Dreamland. Hence why it's called Dreamland Billionaires. So basically the first book, we follow Rowan, and he's gotta basically be the CEO for a few months, for like 6 months. And then a whole bunch of people have to see how he does, to see if he will, 1, get his inheritance, and 2, continue to be the CEO. And along the way, he falls in love with a coworker there, and it's kind of like enemies to lovers type.
Yeah.
And then the second book is Terms and Condition. Well, first of all, what do you think I rated the first book?
3.5. 3.5.
4.5.
4.5.
The next one is Terms and Conditions. Book. There we go. Terms and Conditions.
Okay.
Terms and Conditions.
Okay.
That should give you a hint.
Terms and conditions.
So basically, we follow the oldest brother, Declan. Oh my god, my nose. I've been like coughing and sneezing so much. It's like, ugh. Basically, we follow Declan. His thing is that his is the craziest out of all of them, because basically the grandpa gave all 3 brothers, different assignments in order to get their inheritance. And so, like I said, Rowan's was to be CEO for a few months, see how he does. If this group of people, who the grandfather has chosen, decide that he did a good job, he gets his inheritance. Second book, Declan basically he has to get married and get the woman pregnant. That's his task, which is the craziest out of all of the brothers. And so he's like, I'm not just gonna go out and get some random girl pregnant. So he chooses his lovely assistant, Iris. Love her. She's a baddie. And she's also best friends with the brother from the third book. So he's in this book a lot. Because, like I said, they're best friends, like, attached at the hip. Which, that's gonna be weird. Imagine dating your brother's best friend. Weird. Anyways, so basically, he marries her, and she gets pregnant, and it's just them kind of like, they basically made a deal, like, we're gonna get married, I'll get you pregnant, and then right after this, we'll get a divorce, and you'll get a good chunk of my inheritance for all of this stuff. And basically, they fall in love. So, yeah. What do you think I rated that?
A 4.
5.
Wow.
The next book is Final Offer, and this is the last book of both the trilogy and this video.
Okay.
So we follow Callahan, who is Iris's best friend. So basically he has to go to like this summer lake house thing in Michigan. And keep in mind they're all from Chicago. So in the first book he goes to Florida. Second book stays in Chicago. Third book he goes to Michigan to this lake house. Because basically he has to like sell the lake house or something, or like look after the lake house and then sell it. But unbeknownst to him and planned by the grandfather, his ex-girlfriend is there, and plot twist, she got a kid. And for a fat minute, he's over here thinking it's his kid. It's not. It's her niece. Her sister died in a car accident or something like that. I can't remember. And she basically got custody and adopted her niece. So, but basically, while he's doing all that, they fall in love, and it's the whole thing. What do you think I rated the book?
4.5. Since they're all getting high ratings here.
3.5.
Oh my gosh.
I did not like the book as much as the others. A lot of people really like that book. It's like their favorite book. I like Callahan in the second book, but in the third book, he was just really kind of annoying and low-key a dick. He was just low-key rude to Alana. Like, I could not stand him. So, yeah, that's the video.
All right. What book was that?
I have this so out of order. So 24
That was 24.
out of 32.
So we got 8 more books tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there you go. This was ranking Maxwell. We'll figure out a title for this video. We'll see you tomorrow. This video is at almost an hour and 19 minutes. So tomorrow's won't be as long.